We want to thank the press for coming. Today, we're here at the Governor's State House to bring an urgent, very urgent attention of the number of African Americans was killed in Savannah, Georgia, under black leadership. We have a black mayor, 8 black city councilmen, the DA is black, the police chief is black. Since January 1st, 2022, we have had 6 shootings where 5 result in death, and that is not natural. So we feel that something is wrong with this police department. We have sent a letter to the governor of this state, which I will read the letter soon, of doing a complete investigation of these 6 people who have been shot by policemen in Savannah, Georgia. We also sent a letter to the Department of Justice asking for a complete investigation on all these shootings, opening every last one of them up again. The last 2 shootings were, one were in July, where Mr. Mincy was shot by Savannah policemen. He had a gun. The GPI reported that the young man, Mr. Mincy, pointed the gun at the officer and the officer shot him. They had to retract that statement because the dash cam did not show that, so they publicly retract that statement, but the officer still was not charged for shooting Mr. Mincy. The latest, in June 24th, where Mr. Lee have a concealed weapons permit, showed the officer his permit, and still were shot down like a dog. Something is wrong with this. Something is wrong with Savannah leadership, and it needs to be changed. We're going to read the letter to the governor by the legal team.
Thank you, Elder Johnson. I'd like to read to you the letter that has been sent by the Racial Justice Network to the Honorable Brian Kemp, Governor of the State of Georgia. And it reads as follows. Dear Governor Kemp, the nation, the world, and the state of Georgia has witnessed numerous killings of African American men by police, many of these men who were unarmed. The state of Georgia has so far been the focus of attention as a result of the Ahmaud Arbery murder, where law enforcement and the prosecution have been implicated in the initial refusal to hold private citizens accountable for the senseless killing of this one African American unarmed man. However, we believe there to be an emergency in the making as regards the Savannah Police Department. We believe that proactive steps should be taken in addition to the admirable efforts of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. We thank them for their service, but we believe that there should be efforts to determine and to assure that African American male citizens of Georgia receive fair treatment from law enforcement. The Racial Justice Network is demanding that the state of Georgia conduct an investigation into the Savannah, Georgia Police Department. While there has not been high-profile media coverage of the numerous police shootings of African Americans in Savannah, Georgia, there are nonetheless compelling reasons which warrant an immediate and thorough investigation by the state of Georgia. First, there have been 5 fatal police shootings of African American men in Savannah since the beginning of 2022. Savannah is Georgia's oldest city, established in 1733, with a current population of the city proper of only 150,000 people and 334,000 for the metropolitan area. It is a relatively small city. The ratio of fatal police shootings of African American men is an astonishing 1 for every 30,000 people in the past 6-month period. Secondly, there have been 23 officer-involved shootings in the same time period, beginning January of 2022. The ratio of officer-involved shootings is 1 for every 6,526 people, an amazing number. Nationwide statistics show 35 fatal police shootings of African American men as of January 2022. Therefore, the Savannah, Georgia fatal police shootings make up 14% of total fatal shootings nationally. These numbers alone certainly place the Savannah Police Department on the radar as a scene of American carnage. Something highly unusual and suspect is occurring for such large numbers of police shootings and killings to have occurred in such a short period. Whether it is lack of police training, racial profiling, abuse of police powers, or whatever the case may be, this matter should be investigated by the state of Georgia. There is an emergency situation for African American citizens of Savannah that demand answers. The Racial Justice Network acknowledges that Savannah is a city with a black mayor, a black police chief who resigned 2 weeks ago, and many black city council persons. However, the demographics of the city leadership should not be any cause for hesitancy on the part of the state of Georgia to make the decision to investigate. The Racial Justice Network implores you, Governor Kemp, to authorize an independent panel to conduct an immediate investigation to determine if there is a pattern or practice of unconstitutional and/or illegal policing. While we understand that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has been tasked with investigating individual instances of fatal police shootings, it should be readily apparent that a more broad-based, deep, and comprehensive examination needs to be done. We stand ready to assist in any way that you may require. Sincerely, Elder James Johnson, CEO and founder, Racial Justice Network.
Here is the second letter to the Department of Justice from our legal team.
Just before we read the letter, we do want to call out those 5 gentlemen that have been killed in Savannah. Say his name: Robert Gadsden, age 35. Say his name. David Paul Dixon, age 36. Say his name. James Allen Miller, 31. Zachary Smith, say his name, age 24. Sadia Area Lee, age 31, say his name. This letter is addressed to the Honorable Christine Clark, the Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division of the United States of Justice. In reference, the Racial Justice Network calls for the Department of Justice to investigation of Savannah, Georgia Police Department. The letter reads as follows. Dear Attorney Clark, under the Obama administration, the Department of Justice investigated some 24 police agencies following widespread reports of misconduct and gross violations of the civil rights of African Americans. Unfortunately, under the Trump administration, concerns regarding police misconduct against African Americans not only warned but appeared to reverse the course set by the prior administration. Perhaps as a result of the seemingly nonchalance of Mr. Trump years, we have experienced an execution of George Floyd by the police officers. As a result, the entire world has witnessed the horrors of the systematic police abuse of African Americans. It is a welcome policy shift signaled by the April 21, 2022 announcement by the Attorney General Merrick Garland that the Department of Justice would investigate the Minneapolis, Minnesota Police Department, the possible pattern of practice of unconstitutional and illegal policing. The Racial Justice Network is demanding that the Department of Justice conduct an investigation into the Savannah, Georgia Police Department. While there has not been high-profile media coverage of the numerous police shootings of African Americans in Savannah, there are still compelling reasons which warrant an immediate and thorough investigation by the Department of Justice. First and foremost, the 5 fatal police shootings of the African American men, in which we have just read, since the beginning of 2022. Savannah is the oldest city established in 1733, with a current population of the city popular of 150,000, 78, and 334,000 for the metropolitan area. It is a relatively small city. The ratio of police shootings of African Americans is astounding, 1 of every 30 in a 6-month period. Secondly, there have been 23 officers involved shooting in the same 6-month period, beginning in January of 2022. The ratio of officer involved shooting is 1 of every 6,525 people. Nationwide statistics show 35 fatal police shootings of African American men as of January 2022. Therefore, the Savannah, Georgia fatal police shooting make up 14% of the total fatal shooting nationally. The numbers alone certainly place the Savannah Police Department on the radar as a scene of America. Something highly unusual and suspect is occurring for such a large of a number of police shootings and killing to have occurred in such a short period of time. Whether it is the lack of police training, racial profiling, abuse of the police powers, or whatever the case may be, the matter should be investigated thoroughly by the Department of Justice. This is a state of emergency. They're an emergency situation for our African American citizens for Savannah, and we demand answers. The Racial Justice Network acknowledges that Savannah is a city with a black mayor, a black police chief who resigned just 2 weeks ago, and many black city councilmen. However, the demographics of the city leadership should not be any cause for you to hesitate on the part of the Department of Justice to make the decision to investigate immediately. The Racial Justice Network implores the Department of Justice to conduct an immediate investigation to determine if there is a pattern or practice of unconstitutional and illegal policing. We stand ready to assist in any way the Department of Justice may require. Again, sincerely, our President, Mr. Elder James Johnson, the CEO and founder.
We want to turn it back to other legal team to respond.
I grew up in the city of Savannah, Georgia. And in 1968, something happened that I still remember even to this day, 54 years later. My earliest remembrance of anything having to do with the Savannah Police Department is the fact that in 1968, a classmate of mine, a 14-year-old young African-American boy, was shot in the back of the head as he was running away from Savannah police officers. And I still remember this matter so vividly, even 54 years later, because, as I said, he was a classmate of mine. We went to the same school, we lived in the same neighborhood, and he was shot and killed in the very block of the dirt street, East Anderson Lane, where my mother lived. He was shot in the back of the head. Anyone who is being objective could have to say that such a shooting was unjustified. But it is sad to say that even 54 years later, we are still experiencing the same kinds of unjustified fatal shootings of African American men. I have to think about the contrast between that killing and what we see today when young Caucasian males, armed to the teeth, who have perpetrated mass shootings in Charleston, South Carolina, most recently in Buffalo, New York, and yet their arrests were effected without incident. That is the term that is being used nowadays, without incident, which means they were taken alive. Young white males who've carried out mass murders have more empathy shown for them than young African American men. So I'm here today. I don't live in Savannah, Georgia anymore, but my family still does. And I am reminded of what happened 54 years ago. And so I join my voice in chorus with all of those who are members of the Racial Justice Network and all those who are of like mind to say that there is something untoward. There is something out of the ordinary. There is something suspect when young African American men can be shot down unjustly, like a dog, as Elder Johnson put it. And so we call upon the Honorable Governor Brian Kemp to convene an investigative panel to look into what is occurring. With that, I'm going to shut my mouth and stand back.
I can't say that I'm from Georgia. I am a visitor, but I am working together with the Racial Justice Network, and I'll be very brief. It is disturbing that young African American men are being shot down, and it's calm. There's no outcry, there's no protest. It's just calm. That's unacceptable. That's disturbing. The matter needs to be investigated aggressively. Answers and adequate responses need to be put in place quickly. And young African American men and women need to be able to live and work as productive citizens without this thing hanging over their heads, this fear of death, and we're looking for some answers. My name is Rebecca Johnson, and I'm just a member of the legal team.
Though the color of our skin may be different, we're still Americans. Though the color of our skin may be different, we were still born Americans. Why is the help? Why does the help keep failing us? How many more lives must be taken by the help? Less force, not more. Our previous legal team stated that Dylan Roof is sitting comfortably in his federal pen. The other young man who dressed up like a young woman to escape as he murdered those children is resting peacefully in his cell. Many of these men, unarmed, are 6 feet under. Our people are now afraid of the help. We don't know who to call. Now, Governor Kemp, you asked for the job. Whether or not you earned it or not, you asked for it. Now, we are demanding that you do it. If you do not do it, then we're going to call upon, because election time is coming. And I need to remind all Georgia voters that if he continues to allow your people to be slaughtered and do nothing about it, we are encouraging you to begin to go out and register everybody that is not registered to vote yet. Because we're not going to continue, because we are Americans and we do have a right to vote. If you do not do your job and investigate and hold your officers accountable, the ones that we pay for, from shooting our young men. Not one of those names I called were over 40 years old. They didn't even have a chance to live. But Dylan Roof is. And guess who's paying for it? We are. Guess who's paying for it? We are. This hurts us. We don't know if to pull over or whether or not we will be killed. Is this truly the land of the free, or are we just still visitors?
As you heard the legal team, they will be working tirelessly to work on these cases. This is an urgent call, not only to Governor Kemp, the Justice Department, This is an urgent call to President Biden to take a close look of all the African American male and female that are shot across this country. This has to stop. We are more afraid of the policemen in these states than we ever been before, simply because every single day a black male or female are being shot down like a dog in America. This is urgent. This is, especially in Savannah, Georgia, a state of emergency that the governor appoint, not the GBI, because we caught them in a lie in the Mincy case, but a special independent investigating team to investigate the last 6 shootings in 6 months in Savannah, Georgia. I'm pretty sure there are more across the state of Georgia, but in Georgia itself, Savannah, with a black mayor, city councilman, is the worst city in 2022 of killing of an African American male. So, Governor, please hear us. We would also like to send this message to Stacey Abrams to get involved in all the shootings in Savannah, Georgia, and all the shooting across Georgia. Is there any question from the media? Yes, they have. They haven't responded on last week. We have 3 protests there in the last 8 months on the last 2 shootings. They have responded. They use the response of this group should be more interested in trying to deal with the crime within the city than the police shooting, but we are interested in the crime, the black-on-black crime in the city also. Mm-hmm. We haven't heard anything from Governor Kent yet, no. Well, we think that we need a reform of the police department. Something definitely is wrong with Savannah Police Department. We need a reform, better training. The racial profiling must stop. And it's unprecedented, the amount of people that have been shot in Savannah, Georgia in 6 months. We never heard it before. So something is wrong with that police department. Which is sure is so shocking when it comes to the GBI investigation. All an officer has to say is that he was feared for his life. And 9 chances out of 10, the policeman will get away, especially if the black African-American male had a gun on him, which is this state is an open carrier. If he had a gun, his chances of being shot down are greater than without a gun. It's been proven in the last 2 shootings, the victim had weapons and still was shot down by Savannah Police Department. So it's urgent that the governor do their investigation and finding out what is wrong with Savannah Police Department in Savannah, Georgia. Okay, thanks.